they were putting together the Casco Bay, and it seemed something cool to try. And it's one of those things where you do the race and you just love it so much. You're like, wow, this was amazing. And right in my backyard kind of thing. And I've been doing it, ever since.
Welcome to the Löw Tide Böyz, a Swimrun Podcast. I'm Chip.
And I'm Chris, and this is episode 99 of the show. I'm just going to let that sit there for a minute.
I was going to put my joke in there, but I'm not going to do it anymore.
You can do it.
I got 99 problems, but a podcast episode ain't one? Question mark?
Insert the crickets chirping a little
Yeah.
bit. This week, we have local fitness legend Burcay Gurcan on the show. He's a Portland, Maine institution, and we chatted with him about all things Portland/Casco Bay, water polo. Yep, you heard that right, water polo. And how he's single-handedly gotten a ton of people into swimrun in New England. So we got a bunch of requests to get him on the show, and we're glad to share his story with all of you. But first,
here is the Löw Tide Böyz training update. Hashtag
I love
off-season.
these updates. I love these updates.
These are the best ones, the shortest ones as well. It's still the off season, a couple more weeks.
Yeah.
Enjoying some less stress on the body. And it rolls in nicely to our shout out.
It does. It really does. So this week we're shouting out the unknown quantity crew, all these people at the newly named Palisades Tahoe. This is the ski resort formerly known as Squaw Valley, for turning on their snowmaking machines so that our children could have some fun playing in the snow on a recent vacation to Lake Tahoe that was unfortunately missing snow. We actually ended up having to drive up to 8,500 feet on Mount Rose to get some decent snow. But yeah, Palisades Tahoe, thanks for turning on them jets.
Home of the 1960 Winter Olympics, which they will not let you forget about. If you go up there, Olympics are all over. They'll let you know they've been riding
those coattails for 60 years.
Yes, and the torch was lit out there. They had a whole thing. So it's a beautiful area. Beautiful area. Now on to this week's feats of endurance. So this week's award goes to Jonathan DePriest. He's a San Francisco native, and we're super impressed that he's been consistently jumping into Aquatic Park, which is where the Löw Tide Böyz usually do our training.
It's true.
But Jonathan goes sans wetsuit.
Yeah.
So he has a little bit level of hardened and toughness over the Löw Tide Böyz.
I wish we were as tough as he was.
We do wish. We probably will have to get that tough for just the Untitled Swimrun World Championship. I think some hardening is to be done.
Were that to happen for us, yes.
Yes.
I think that would be wise.
So Jonathan, congratulations. Keep up the strong work there in Aquatic Park. And if you're wondering how to join Jonathan in the coolest Strava club around, head on over to Strava, search Löw Tide Böyz, and you'll join 325 plus.
Oh, no, my friend.
It's over?
We're at 365 as of
How does this happen?
Yesterday. I don't know.
So come join the over 365 athletes in the Löw Tide Böyz Strava Club.
We got people from Indonesia in there. We got a decent representation from Brazil, I must say.
Nice.
So it's cool. It's cool to see everybody in there.
That's awesome. Join in a Strava Club. You'll love it. Now on to This Week in Swimrun.
All right, time for all the news that we could find on the internet. So we're back with the second edition of our ad hoc race director report segment. This week, we have our friend Bruno Safara of Swimrun Portugal on the show to talk about the Lagoa swimrun that took place a few weeks ago and their race plans for 2022. Here's Bruno.
Hi, Chris. Hi, Chip. Thank you for having me on your podcast on this Swimrun Portugal Lagoa swimrun report. So we did the race in the past 14th of November. We had to delay it from 31 due to bad weather, and then we were able to do it on the 14th of November. So we had an amazing event, more around 100 participants, people coming also from UK and from Spain. So besides national participants. The total race course was 25K with 8 transitions. So on the south coast of Portugal, Algarve. So it's a really extraordinary venue where you have accessibilities, airport close by. So it will be a very good destination for the following races. We had the conditions were tough. We had to undercut to swim legs due to the sea, which was very windy and wavy, as you can see also in the video that we will share today on our social media. But everybody was pleased and happy when they arrived at the end. So it was really good tough. So we were able to perform our calendar. We did the four races in the past 2 months, which was red. So basically, for next year, we are already pushing and placing the dates starting already in the end of March in the Azores. And we will also go again to Algarve in April and May. But as soon as we get all these dates will be available during the next month, December, so that all this could be available. So thank you very much for having me. And if you need any more information, please let me know.
Nice. 4 races in 2 months. That's getting on as keen as mustard territory for
it sounded
Diabolical.
like he sounded like he said it was rad, but I was like, to me it also sounded like red, like you're just in the red like the whole time.
Red.
Yeah. Anyway, that was super cool to hear. Those races really do look epic. So one day, Chipper.
We'll be there.
This past weekend, Swimrun Hydra took place in Greece, and while no actual mythological creatures, aka hydras, were spotted on the race course that we heard about, it was still an amazing event with a ton of participants. I was actually really surprised. It looked like there was like 300 people out there, which is great. Over in France, Swimrun Maine announced their race dates for 2022, and we'll save everyone our attempts to pronounce their names or butcher them, to be more precise. So head over to their website to see the 4 events they have for next year. And as a bonus, all of their events have Attila merit race distances for those trying to accumulate Attila ranking points.
Nice.
I think the one that piques my interest the most is their last race, the Lafri race, which I can actually pronounce, where the ending is like a VK.
Not a swim beak. You're not swimming a waterfall. It's running.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you swim the lake, and then the last run is this 1 kilometer vertical gain at the end. Pretty intense. Finally, one of our favorite races to view from a distance, Hellas Frostbite Swim Run, is taking place on December 1st. This race raises funds for the Swedish Cancer Society, and it's an all-around crazy event in water cold enough to make you blush, whether you want to or not. So check out Hellas Frostbite Swim Run. All this stuff is linked in our show notes, or donate to the Swedish Cancer Society and whatnot. That's it for this week. Be sure to tip us off if there's any news you'd like for us to share on the show.
Yes, on to Löw Tide Böyz updates. So, our new headwear is here. So
it is. I'm looking at it right now.
Head on over. I got eyes on a lot of variety.
Yes.
Something for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
You're going to be excited. Head on over to our shop to see the new hats and beanies. These make great gifts for either loved ones or yourself. In other words, treat yourself. Maybe 1, maybe 2. Maybe you need a beanie and a hat.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple. There's a lot of options. Shirts, beanies, hats.
We
you
still
name
have
it.
a couple of those crazy hoodies.
We got the hoodies, the cotton candy tie-dye hoodies. I might get mine on. It's a little
Which, incidentally, we mentioned that to date only women have purchased those. I mean, we think they're obviously unisex, so we want some representation here as well, not just you and me, but it's great that the ladies are loving it. We love it.
Well, I like it, so I don't really care who else likes it. I know I like it. Additionally, we still have our 2 exclusive sticker giveaways. You just heard we're on episode 99 now. I think we'll make it to 100. So we have a 100 sticker coming that's out right now. We also have a 50K download celebratory sticker. Both these are free. Head on over to lowtideboys.com/stickers.
Yeah.
Fill out the form, and we'll get those in the mail to you. This is an offer that's open worldwide.
Worldwide.
Now,
like Pitbull.
Like Pitbull said, Mr. Worldwide. Our friend Will from Above Below sent a note our way about his ruck raft, which looks so cool for the wild swimming, cross-country swimming movement that's bustling over there in the UK. He announced they have their U.S. patent and an exciting opportunity for anyone to invest in Above Below, the company, to help fund more ruck rafts and expansions as they go to scale in the world. So we have that link to our show notes if you're interested in crowdfunding. It is only open to UK residents at this time, but if that's something you're interested in, go check it out.
Hell yeah.
In other news, our 2022 season is shaping up. We already are in permanent marker for Catalina, Attila Catalina.
We just added some permanent marker.
I just traced over it with a Sharpie. Now, whilst we have the permanent marker out, we're also penciling in. We're not penciling in. We're permanent permanent markering.
It's happening.
It's happening. Swimrun Lake James. So we're really looking forward to racing Kristen Geno's event in late April and hope to see you out there. So we have our early swimrun season is shaping up nicely.
Yeah, and the later swimrun season, end of 2022, TBD.
So
except for maybe Casco. I think Casco is
that's ballpoint.
Once we know the date. Yeah, that's ballpoint. That won't be in for ballpoint. Sure, but
now on to our interview with Burcay.
You got it. Good job.
Burcay.
It was great to chat with Burcay about his circuitous route that brought him from Turkey to New England, how he discovered swimrun, and what it's like to race some of those early Casco Bay events. And finally, why he keeps coming back every year. This was a really fun conversation, and we think that everyone will enjoy it.
He's done every Casco Bay.
He's done every single one, and we got 4 requests from listeners, independent requests from listeners to get this guy on. So we're like, the people have spoken. So you 4 people, I think this was a really great suggestion. He's a really interesting guy with a really interesting story, and yeah, it was super fun to chat with him.
Yeah, and he just kind of has the perfect like swim runner's mindset, like just so open to an adventure, sort of, and that's what we keep hearing over and over. So another great conversation.
Yeah.
So without any further ado,
you want to try the name one more time?
Burcay.
Got it.
Nailed it.
Congratulations.
See ya. Happy Thanksgiving, U.S. folks. Happy Boxing Day, Canadians. Europeans, happy Thursday.
Boxing Day? That's what they call it in Canada? I think Boxing Day is...
Oh, that's after Christmas.
That's a UK
I'm going to have
thing.
to walk that back.
All right, with us today we have Burcay Gurcan. He is a Maine local legend. Probably, in recent memory, the most requested person that we've been told that we need to interview. So welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, wow. Thanks for having me on the show. Appreciate the invitation and talking to me, guys.
Yeah. No, so our understanding, you've done every single edition of Casco Bay. We're going to get into that. But first, why don't you tell us a little bit about your athletic background? We know you're from Turkey. How does a Turkish person end up in Maine?
Doing swim runs.
Yeah, good question. When growing up back home in Turkey, I started swimming like everybody else, and then quickly gravitate towards water polo. And so growing up, water polo was my sport back home in Turkey. Then through the Rotary Club exchange program, I came to New York State, Watkins Glen, Finger Lakes area as an exchange student. That's when I started swimming again in high school. And once I finished high school, went to Rochester Institute of Technology, where I got my degree in microelectronic engineering. It's essentially electrical engineering with some microchip focus. And when I was at RIT, I played water polo, and most retired swimmers post college started doing triathlons just to kind of stay active, in shape. And like most triathletes, after doing so many of them, you kind of get bored, right? Looking for something new.
Heard that before.
And that,
we're just nodding our
yeah,
heads.
that's when that's when this race was being organized in Casco Bay. And Jeff was actually, that's when I met Jeff. He was designing or organizing Kennebunkport triathlon. So I kind of knew him through the channels, and Lars and Jeff. That's when I first introduced to Lars. They were putting together the Casco Bay, and it seemed something cool to try. And it's one of those things where you do the race and you just love it so much. You're like, wow, this was amazing. And right in my backyard kind of thing. And I've been doing it, ever since. It's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. So Jeff Cole is who you're referring to, who was the original. Him and Lars were sort of the original two race directors of what was Swimrun USA at the time, Casco Bay. So prior to connecting up with Jeff and Lars, sounds like you didn't have any. You haven't heard of Attila or any of the origination of the sport over there in Sweden?
Yeah, I have not, actually, to be honest with you. That was the first time that I heard about it. And clearly then you start reading about Attila and how big it is in Europe. And the fact that it was sort of coming to the shores of Maine, it was kind of exciting. And no, yeah, I didn't know much about it, and to a large extent, when we first heard about some of the rules, teams of two, you're tethered together, you could use anything you want. It sounded like, is that even possible? Can you swim with shoes?
Yeah.
What if I want to use fins? What do I do with the fins? Right? Usual stuff that everyone kind of goes through at first. So yeah, no, that was my introduction to the sport, and I loved it so much. Not just the event itself, training for it is, just as, I think, fun and exciting. To be honest with you, in Maine especially, we can sort of take a ferry. Like this year, we took like the 6:30 ferry. Took the ferry out to the Long Island. Did our own training with 7 of us. It's just awesome, right? You're in the middle of the ocean. Sun is rising. It's just beautiful.
It's hard to beat.
Thing to experience.
It's hard to beat. Yeah. So I hear you have your swimming background, and we kind of get this a lot from the really swim heavy folks. Is burnout a lot seems to be a big thing of, you got double practices doing 10,000 yards a day. Like we hear those kind of stories as well. So it sounded like you kind of embraced the more free flowing nature of the race, and how it wasn't tied down to the specific distances like in triathlon, or, you're on the 200 IM or whatever. I hope that's a swim event.
That's exactly right. I mean, and to be fair, both Jeff, when he first started, and Lars have done a pretty decent job changing up the course, even in Maine. So even though it's the same body of water, the course looks and feels different every year. And there's always people complaining about one aspect of the course, right?
Oh, sure.
It's either one swim is just too long, or one run is too long, or the bushes weren't marked right, or something. There's always something different challenging about the course that is enjoyable. So
yeah,
which is what I like about it.
Yeah, and it sounds like, so that first event you had what we consider the conversion experience, where you sort of fell in love with it, felt the magic of it. Did you feel it sort of right away? We hear it's usually that first transition once you're running, and then you just jump into the water and keep going. But what was that first experience like for you?
Yeah, the first experience, that is the year where there was no distinction between long and short course, if I remember right, the first one.
Yeah.
I think that first race was just enough between the distances. It was a decent I don't remember how long it took us. I think close to 4 hours.
Okay.
But the name of the game at the time was just to finish it.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I remember the last swim from House Island to Peaks Island. It was that was the most, I think, remarkable, magical sort of, hey, we're sort of finishing it. This is the last swim. You could see the flags, and we did it kind of thing,
Yeah.
Up until that moment, you have all these worries, what's going to happen, all the gear, right, you're carrying with you. Something going to break? Am I going to hurt myself? Am I going to get lost? And that kind of stuff. So I remember that last swim, it just felt really, really good, even though we were so tired at the time. And then after that, you sort of feel like, hey, I did the first swim run in Maine and quite possibly in the country.
Yeah.
And so if I do this every year, right, I get to be one of those, guys who sort of like, hey, back 20 years ago when we first started.
Yeah, like the people that have done like Escape from Alcatraz 30 years in a row.
Yeah. You actually had to be an inmate.
Yeah.
You're in a remarkable position to sort of see the evolution of swimrun in the United States evolve in the last, half decade plus. So I'm really curious, from the participants that you did the race with in that first year compared to in 2021, how have you kind of seen the mix change over the last several years?
Yeah, that's a fair question. I can see actually both sides of the spectrum improving, meaning I see folks who are good runners who really didn't feel comfortable swimming, getting into the sport, or really good swimmers who just don't necessarily like to run, getting into the sport. And it's a really good gateway sport, I think, something challenging for them to try. And they just weren't quite ready for triathlon, but, they could, they did Peaks to Portland, they did Double Light, they did all these different swim events. And it's a good, challenging course, something for them to try. I see them sort of coming in. On the other spectrum, where these sort of maybe really high-end pro triathletes who've done their Ironmans and half Ironmans and, placed top 3 and what have you, are really good at it, but for one way or another, they're just tired of the sport. It's hard to travel, but the bikes and everything. I see a lot of those guys coming in as well. And as they put more and more events around the country, like the Austin, the Michigan, Orcas, and what have you, it's turning into more of a destination sport, where it's much harder to do, with a $3,000 bike in tow. But with swim run, you can go travel and do those races. So I think the sport is growing at a healthy pace, and people who do it and they enjoy it so much, they start looking other places to go try. So that's sort of what I observe.
Well, and I also think that, from our sources who told us to get you on the show, that you are singularly responsible for getting dozens of people to sign up for Casco Bay.
Wow.
And convincing people to take on this challenge. So you're essentially, like Chipper and myself, a swimrun evangelist at this point. So how have you gotten to convince people to sign up for the race?
What's your sales pitch? Let's hear it.
Well, it's really, I think my use of social media probably gets a lot of my friends sort of excited. Because my family lives in Turkey still, my parents and a lot of my relatives, a lot of good friends, people I grew up with playing water polo. So Facebook is one media, and Instagram, I post a lot of pictures and videos and experiences mostly. And I guess through that communication, people around me who have done events, they just sort of get real like, wow, those pictures were great, those videos were awesome. What does it take to do them, or can we come join you? So I've had a couple of different teammates over the years, and actually this year, my teammate who helped me get first place in the short course was my water polo teammate at RIT.
Oh.
He was my classmate. At one point, he was my roommate. And him and I were both exchange students and did high school swimming back in New York. So, we've been friends for close to 30 years. And he's like, I got to do this with you. What about next year? I'm like, hey, come on up. Let's do it.
Nice.
So I think the social media and also having a active friendship circle certainly helps that model, right? You guys probably see it a lot too. When you see something like, wow, that looks really cool, I want to go try it, and you have a friend who's willing to host you,
Yeah, right. For sure.
People travel, and so that's been fun as well. And then also locally. We have a couple of close friends. I don't know if you've heard from Chris Sweet.
Mm-hmm.
We call ourselves Barnacle Boys.
Mm-hmm.
Low Tide Böyz were taken, so we went with Barnacle
That's
Boys.
that was our second choice too.
So Pat Reagan is a good friend. He's volunteered for the event for a couple of years, and he just wasn't a big fan of running. We were like, hey, it's okay. You don't have to run miles and miles. You don't have to be a marathon runner. You can do 2 miles here, a mile there, and 3 miles there. We just got to train. So last year, boom, he just jumps on board, does the training. Next thing you know, he's finishing and feeling good. My first teammate, Mike Booth, him and I started the first year. He's a big fan. He always is trying to do big races, different types of events. So I think it's just getting the word out and posting pictures and talking positively about the event, and just enjoying what we got in our backyard.
Right.
Yeah, like such a real kind of grassroots effort. And I like the way that you kind of position that a little bit about, some people might see a swim run event and go, oh, I'm not a runner.
I can't
and
do
it's
20
like, oh, well, this
miles.
isn't like, you're not chunking a half marathon down in the middle of the day. You're doing it, like you said, it's like you're picking up change, and before you know it, you got $1. I think that's a very good way to think about it, and to kind of like sell it to people, if you will, is that, people, you can get by with going a mile or two here or there, and then you get a nice break in the water, and everything chunked up and broken up feels really, to me, much more of an approachable event, where the primary focus isn't how fast can you ride your bike on this straight line and this straight road. It's like, let's just finish this thing, because that's a huge accomplishment. And we don't really care or remember if it took us 3 hours or if it took us 6. We just know it was a really big accomplishment. We had fun, and I did it with somebody, and we had a good time.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you're absolutely right. The other piece that I really enjoy about these events is the teamwork piece of it. To be honest with you guys, I also want to come clean. I've done all 5 Casco Bay events, but I only finished 4. And one of the races I had to abort because I wiped out on one of the islands.
Ooh.
And cut my hand, and had to get go on a rescue boat and go to hospital, get stitches.
Ouch.
So that's when you realize it's nice having a teammate.
Yeah.
Did you use your compression bandage?
Yes, sir.
Wow,
Wow,
you're the first
person.
You're the first. Well, that's worthy of interview right there. It's like we're gonna have to retitle this. Hey, we are interviewing
Someone
the
used
only
the compression
person,
bandage.
the only person we've ever known to use the mandatory compression bandage.
Yeah, well, I can't. I have to be. I have to come clean on that one too. It wasn't
You're
my
still okay in
compression
our
bandage. Don't tell Lars that it wasn't mine. But,
he won't hear a word about this.
Yeah, he doesn't listen to the show.
So yeah, it was one of those events, right? It's raining and low tide, and rocks are slippery. I wiped out and cut my hand open, and so right there and then you just you really appreciate having a teammate with you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because all that blood rushing out, heart rate is up, and you feel like you're gonna pass out. And
yeah, it's like
next to the ocean.
Yeah, chum in the water. You don't, shark infested waters. You don't want any of that.
Yeah, we don't talk about sharks in Maine.
Yeah, we noticed, except on emails at 4:03 in the morning.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Do you, for your partner selection, so you've done it with a few people, is that something that you intentionally try to kind of spread the Swimrun love and find a new partner every year? Or are you finding yourself,
somewhat intentional. Mike and I did it a couple of times. Him and I did it 3 times. But the other 2 teammates I found, one was my host brother. The family that I lived with for a year when I was an exchange student, and now that guy lives in Bellingham, Washington, so he is right next to Orcas.
Yeah.
So he's trying to get me to go over there
because you should. That's a good one.
You really should.
Right. So he's a wicked good swimmer, triathlete, all of the above. And then my teammate. I think it's good to have different teammates, people who you can communicate with. You learn a lot about yourself as much as your teammate, and I think communication is a big part of the race.
Yeah.
Ivan and I this year, to be perfectly honest, him and I communicated really, really well. It was one of those races. We knew each other, and we were both good swimmers and decent runners. He was a better runner than I was. But tethering, when to tether, when not to tether on the run. We did not skip a beat on any of the transitions. It's a really, really good feeling, right? That's when everything sort of came together.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, that's probably why we won. We didn't spend any time tinkering with stuff and arguing over who's going to do what.
I mean, we didn't come up with this term, but that's you essentially got into the swim run flow, is what people call it. Where we were just transitioning.
Oh, that's
it
a
was
good way
just
of
you weren't swimming and then running and then swimming and then running. You were swim running, and it was one activity. It wasn't all these transitions. It was essentially you guys were dialed in, communicating well, and honestly, that's
where the real fun happens.
That's kind of that. I mean, that's almost like what I mean. Speaking for myself, that's kind of what I chase in swim run. Like I want to be in that sort of zone where you're just just moving through nature, trying to do it as quickly as possible, smooth, but at the same time having fun and taking care of your partner and your partner taking care of you. So I think the fact that you had that experience and that it resulted in a victory, to me, that seems like those two things go together. I think it's probably pretty hard to win a race like that if you're not, in sync with your partner.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. And a lot of credit goes to Ivan too. I mean, he's such a positive guy. We were high-fiving people sitting on the sidelines, talking to people, nice. Joking with people. That was definitely part of it. But yeah, good communication. Knowing who to pull, what to pull, and just calling, say, hey, I'm not feeling good. Can you pull on the run? And just admitting defeat at times so that you can maybe recover and conquer some of the challenges that you might be having. I think that's part of it. So yeah, I don't know who my partner is going to be next year, but you know, I'll take anybody who's willing to push themselves. You know.
Well, be
Love
careful. Be careful what you wish
Yeah, you
for,
might.
because we're going to start getting some DMs once this show goes.
I take
live.
that back.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned Pat and Chris, because those were two of the 4 sources
We're already revealing
that
sources.
yeah, well, you know, we're not journalists or anything, who were like, you have to get Burcay on the show because, you know, he's just a super positive dude in Maine who's like trying to get everyone into swim run. Yeah, and we're definitely feeling those vibes, and I have to say, you know, okay, you've done Casco 5 times. Are you thinking about doing some other races? Maybe going over to Europe and doing one of the Attila races or Catalina?
Yeah, so I like to try some additional, you know, maybe the Michigan one.
Mhm.
That seems really cool. Like I was telling, you know, seeing all the social media pictures, Michigan and the Orcas Islands look really cool, and so those 2 are sort of what I'm eyeing to do. And maybe if I can convince my wife to go over to Europe, I'm sure she would love to go. We could try a race or 2 over there. Now, ironically, I was back home in Turkey a couple of weeks ago, and I was trying to think about some spots where there would be some swim runs. Right, Turkey has so many coastal areas. That would be a really cool place to have some swim runs, but I don't think there are any races right now.
Like Izmir, I think Izmir would be a prime location for a swim run.
Izmir would be really good. Antalya, which is a southern Turkey, some really nice areas. Bodrum, Fethiye, there's some really nice spots that can have some swim runs. There aren't any right now, but
there's none in Turkey. So we've talked about the swimrun piece, and when we were trying to schedule this interview, you told us that you were competing in like the World Championship of water polo.
Yeah, it's not a world championship, but it was a European. It was a European. I guess it would be. It is an international masters water polo tournament in Istanbul.
Okay.
Wow.
And I flew over there. This was a tournament that was originally organized, like many events last year, got pushed out to this year, and all my teammates back when I was in high school in a club water polo team that I played with were participating in. So it was more of a reunion / tournament for me, and so it was a lot of fun. We ended up getting second place.
Nice.
Nice.
Out of 8 teams.
That's good.
And we lost against a Serbian club team, and so that was sad. But overall, the tournament was a huge success.
That's awesome.
We had a blast.
So, club water polo is kind of your main outlet for staying in swim run shape.
I would love to say that. You know, I guess last time I played water polo was 3 years ago, and that's when I was in Switzerland to participate in another masters water polo team with the same group of guys.
Oh, so this is like off the couch getting silver medal. That's what's going on.
Couch to second place water polo.
It's pretty good.
Okay.
Pretty good. That's pretty good.
You just have a good team. You just need other people better than you.
It's a pro tip there. Get people around you.
That's right.
So Burcay, you know, we really want to thank you for coming on. We want to thank you for spreading the gospel of swimrun. We look forward to meeting you at Casco next year.
Absolutely.
We're bummed we didn't get to meet you when we were there this year. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show and spending some time with us and talking about your swimrun journey with us.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, we will see you in Portland, Maine in just about,
very good.
You know,
have a good evening.
9-10 months or so.
Something like that. All right. Take
That's
care.
Right. Talk to you guys later.
Let's love
Thank you for listening to the Löw Tide Böyz, a Swimrun podcast. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast and leave a review on iTunes if you're so inclined.
You can also sign up for a newsletter at lowtideboyz.com. That's boys with a Z. And check out our meme page at the Löw Tide Böyz on Instagram. If you have any questions or suggestions for the show, drop us an email at lowtideboyz@gmail.com.
We'd like to thank Writing Easy Records for our show music, and of course our wives for their support and tolerance of our swimrun activities, hobbies, and other bullshit we do.
Finally, you can support our efforts on Patreon. Until next time, get out there and go for a swim.
And then a run.
And then another swim.
Then another run.
And then another swim.
And then run to the finish line. And just keep going until you're done.
Yes, or
until
run
you
to
cross the finish line.
Or run to the car.
Or run to your car.
Somewhere. Just keep running.
Peace.